In Myrtle Hill Cemetery, in Valley City, Ohio, a spherical marble stone marks the grave of a woman who was a tormented soul. What form the torment took varies from story to story, but all portray the woman, a Mrs. Stopskoff, as suffering mental and physical abuse at the hands of her husband and young sons. The woman plotted her revenge. She decided to poison the family's water supply, the well in the backyard. She killed her entire family, then dumped them all into the well. With her family missing, it didn't take long for the neighbours to become suspicious of Mrs. Stopskoff. The bodies were eventually discovered, and the woman was arrested. She was deemed unfit to stand trial, and instead was committed to a state mental hospital for the rest of her life. Upon her death, her remains were relocated to Myrtle Hill Cemetery and buried beneath the heavy round stone. A variation of the legend says the woman in question was also a witch who turned to the dark side to seek her revenge. She's said to have practiced her craft in and around the cemetery, including the nearby woods. It is also said that after the bodies of her husband and sons were discovered, the townspeople stoned the woman to death. Her body was then buried under the heavy sphere to keep her from rising from the grave. Such precautions did little good, because the woman's spirit is said to have found a way to escape the grave and return to the places where she practiced her magic. It is also believed by many that the stone itself has soaked up some of the woman's evil, explaining why it feels warm to the touch in the winter and freezing in the summer. It is said that snow and leaves don't fall near the monument, suggesting that even nature is fearful of the witch's ball. The idea that children should be seen and not heard did not hold true for Gracie Watson when she was alive, and it doesn't hold true now. In fact, now it's just the opposite. Little Gracie makes herself heard but not seen. She is said to haunt the site of her parents' famed soirees, the former Pulaski Hotel in Savannah, Georgia. The Watsons ran the Pulaski Hotel in the early 1880s, and Gracie was born in 1883. Northerners who longed to fit into Savannah society, the Watsons began inviting the city's elite to elaborate parties with Gracie as an adorned, pint-sized hostess. Her father's pet, she charmed the upper crust until she became bored, at which point she would wander off to play under a stairwell at the back of the house. When Gracie died at the tender age of 6 after a bout with pneumonia, she was sorely missed. Her father had a statue commissioned in her likeness to mark her gravesite in Bonaventure Cemetery. A marker at the grave tells the story. Little Gracie Watson was born in 1883, the only child of her parents. Her father was manager of the Pulaski House, where the beautiful and charming little girl was a favourite with the guests. 2 days before Easter, in April 1889, Gracie died of pneumonia at the age of 6. In 1890, when the rising sculptor John Waltz moved to Savannah, he carved her from a photograph, this life-size, delicately detailed marble statue, which for almost a century has captured the interest of all passers-by. It's not just Gracie's gravesite that captures the interest of people in Savannah. Little Gracie, it has been reported, is still out and about. While the Pulaski Hotel building still stood, it was said that a child could be heard playing under the stairwell, yet no child was in sight. In the new building that went up after the Pulaski was raised in 1957, the area around its former staircase became the site of the ladies' room, and many a surprised restroom visitor is said to have been startled by Gracie's antics. Now that the new building houses a bank, it remains to be seen whether Gracie will continue to haunt the premises. Without the familiar din of people eating, laughing and talking, will little Gracie feel at home? Perhaps she will wander off in search of more entertaining diversions, as she was so long ago known to do. The older woman, pale and wheezing, looked about ready to die. "Can I help you?" I asked. "There's nothing we can do," her daughter answered. We were waiting at Kahului Airport for the Honolulu plane one windy day in March or maybe April, when I noticed the older woman's distress. "What happened?" I asked. "It's so strange," her daughter said. "We stopped at that little Hawaiian church by the sea, the one with all the cats playing in the graveyard." "Near Makina Landing?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "That's the one, on the coast, past Walia. We went for a drive. My mother wanted to stop at the church because the tombstones were strung with flowers." "Well, what happened?" I asked again. "I touched one," the daughter said, "and the flower around my neck just died. It shriveled up and fell in dust to the ground. We should have left right then, but my mother took a flower from a tombstone. It was so beautiful, and put it around her neck. And then it happened so fast. Her face turned white, pale white. Something was strangling her, but I couldn't see anything. She couldn't breathe." Concerned, I asked, "What did you do?" "I took the flower off her and put it back on the tombstone, and we left right away for the airport." "And how long ago?" I asked. "About an hour," her daughter said. Her mother fanned her face with her plane ticket. I got her a cup of water and told her that she'd either had an allergic reaction to the flowers or encountered a spirit in the graveyard. If a spirit were the cause, I told her, she probably would be alright if she told the island she was sorry. It was all I could say. Thank you, mother and daughter said. "Thank you so much." After we deplaned in Honolulu, I saw them again. Mother was breathing easier, daughter looked less anxious. I bid them goodbye, and they smiled and waved. I like to think the mother had taken my advice and apologised. When I later told my Hawaiian pal Sam about the incident, he shook his head. "She's lucky," he said. "Never take someone's flower, especially if they're dead."